So I've recently been getting a decent amount of questions on the channel regarding the spreadsheet that I use for my videos and how people can access it. At the moment, it is not yet available since I'm still working through some kinks and want to make sure it is ready before I make it accessible to people on this channel. Also, I do need to decide how I'm going to be distributing it, so if you have any suggestions, let me know in the comments down below. But in the meantime, I thought I could put out a tutorial on how to make your own future outlook simulator so you can add them to your own spreadsheets and start using them for your own calculations to see what your value of your portfolio might look like in 10, 20, 30, or even 40 years. I hope you guys do find this video helpful, and if you have any questions regarding anything I go over today, make sure to leave it down in the comments down below and I'll try to get to it as soon as possible. So with that being said, let's hop right into the tutorial. What is up YouTube? Welcome back to another video. I'm your host, TheDividendAristocrat, and today I'm going to be showing you how to make your own future outlook simulator for your own spreadsheets. So the first thing we want to do, of course, is open up a new spreadsheet, and if we want to title it, we can title it our future outlook simulator. Then we can just select all our cells by clicking in this top left corner, and we're just going to do this ahead of time. We're going to center everything both vertically and horizontally. Perfect. That way we won't have to do that cleanup later. Now basically the way I'm going to walk you guys through it is I'm just going to do it from top to bottom basically, and if you guys want more explanations on it, I'll try to provide some at the end on how it works, but if you want anything more detailed, let me know in the comments down below and I can definitely provide that at a later time or give you guys some responses through the comments. So in our first cell, we want to put our starting principal. And then we actually want to move 2 cells over and put in our annual contribution. Move down 2 more cells to cell E1, and then we're going to put our annual dividend yield. Now from there, what we can do is we're going to head back to our A column, and we're going to go down to row 3. Here we're going to type in expected dividend price appreciation per year. And then we're going to go all the way to column D, and we're going to put expected price appreciation. Now going down to cell A5, let's put our portfolio value at year. And you'll see in a minute why we're just leaving it open-ended like that. We're not specifying what year. Under expected price appreciation, let's put our dividend income. And then for cell A7, let's put our total return at year. I accidentally placed this in the wrong cell, so I'm just going to copy it over and move it 1 over. And then going 2 down from there is our total dividend earned. Now before I get into what each of these does and what they're signifying, I'm going to actually format it a little bit. So I'll show you how to do the first one and I'll probably speed it up so you guys can see the rest real quick. So first, let's just merge these 2 cells. Then we're going to change the color. I'm just going to choose a blue color. Let's change the font color to white, and I'm going to make it bold. Now at this point, what I want to do is I want to increase the font to size 14, and we'll right click on our first row and resize it to 38. Perfect. And now what you can do if you want to copy it over real quick, the formatting, just press this paint format tool and then tap on the next one over. Same thing again, tap, tap, and you can continue going through that like that to make it quicker. Now for row 3 real quick and going forward from there, you want to actually merge 3 cells. Then you should still be able to format paint over and it should keep that same style consistent, but you're gonna have to fix that row sizing. All right, perfect. And just like that, we have our categories formatted. Now the next thing we want to do is we want to merge these cells together. And this one is going to be a currency format. Same thing for the next one over, merge them together, currency format. And then for anything that's going to be yield related, it's going to be percentage based. So merge together, percentage format, merge together, percentage format. All right, much better. And now we can actually add, in the meantime, some borders just to clean it up. So our starting principal is going to be the amount we're going to start our portfolio value at. So for example, let's just say your initial investment is $10,000. You would put $10,000 into here. From then on, you would use the annual contribution section to decide how much you'll be putting in each year going forward. So let's just say for this example, we're going to be contributing $2,000 each year consistently. And then moving over to our annual dividend yield, let's just say that our total portfolio dividend yield at the moment is just sitting at 1.6%. We have an expected dividend increase of 6% per year and expected price appreciation of about 8% per year. These are all just hypothetical values just so I can give you an idea of why we would use it. Now for these are going to remain empty for now because we're going to have to put formulas in here to calculate what these values actually will be at certain years. So the reason it's emptier now at year blank is because you're going to be able to have a drop down menu here deciding whether you want to do 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, or 40 years. So what we can do before we get into any big calculations is if you unmerge this cell real quick and then only merge the first two, here you can put in a drop-down list. So to insert the drop-down list, you're going to go into Insert, Drop-Down. Hopefully you guys are able to see this, but what I'm going to do now is I'm going to put options in here. So let's say 10 for our first option, then 20, and we'll add 2 more, but you guys can add as many or as little as you want. So 30 and 40. And then you're going to go into advanced options if you want it to look a little bit cleaner. And you're going to just put arrow instead. And then done. And as you can see, if you select the drop down now, you can select 10, 20, 30, or even 40 years. Now we're going to do the same thing with formatting for these, but don't add the drop down menu just yet. I'll show you a quick trick to speed it up. Alright, so what we're going to do here instead is we're just going to go into this cell. We're going to press equals. And then we're going to select the value from this cell. And we're going to do the same for the rest of these cells, so that way they always stay consistent. You don't have to add a bunch of drop-down menus for no reason. Now, if you did want to have drop-down menus so you could do different selections for each of them, that's totally fine, but that's up to you. So now when you select 10, they'll all change to 10, 30, they'll all change to 30. Now, the one other thing we want to do here is we want to change this size a little bit so it's a little bit more readable. So I'm just going to put it like that, and we'll do the same for all of them. All right, and that should be good for now. Now we're going to get started on the actual calculations and how we're going to get our expected value at those years. All right, so I'm just going to give myself some more space here before we start. And then we're going to fill in some more values. So the first cell is going to say year, then value, then annual dividend, then our cumulative dividends, then our yield, and then our yield on cost. And like before, I'll explain what these all do in a second, but let's just format it once again real quick. So I'm just going to change this color to the same color we had before just to keep it consistent. I'm going to do the same font color, but this time I'm going to do size 12 font. And then we can just format paint that across the rest of them. Now, as you can see, these words here get cut off. So what we can do is we can just wrap our text. That way it should all pop up pretty nicely. Now, last thing I want to do is I do want to bold these just so they stand out a little bit from the rest of our text we're going to be inputting. So for our first column, it's pretty straightforward what years signify. It's going to signify how many years you've been investing. So 1, 2, and then instead of writing all of them one by one, we're just going to drag it all the way down. Whoops, a little bit too much. Maybe to, let's see how much that is. 41, so one extra, just delete this. We can scroll back up. So that one's pretty easy, very quick to do. Now our value is our portfolio value at the end of each year. And it's going to start, of course, with the portfolio value at the end of the first year, or at the start of the first year, sorry, which is $10,000. So before I do the rest of the value column, what I'm going to do is I'm going to work on my annual dividend. So for the first year, annual dividend is going to equal our annual dividend yield multiplied by our starting principal. The next column is our cumulative dividends. What it's going to be doing is it's going to measure how much dividends we've earned in total. So the first year will be our first dividend, but the second year will be our second year dividend plus our first year dividend. And the third year will be our third year dividend plus our second plus our first, and so on. So the formula I decided to use in my spreadsheet is just going to be very simple. It's going to be equals sum, and then in parentheses, you're going to put the $sign, you're going to put C, $11, and then you're going to put a colon, C11. Close those parentheses, and that's it. So real quick, what the $signs do is they make sure that the value that you're referencing does not change. So we can't actually click and drag this all the way down to the bottom. Now for our yield is always just going to equal the annual dividend that we're getting paid out divided by our current portfolio value. And we have to, of course, format this as a %. And this formula does not change, so we can already drag it all the way to the bottom of this table. And the reason it has this errors is because these cells are still empty, but that'll fix itself once we continue. Now the yield on cost is a little bit more complicated because what you do is you take your annual dividend that you're receiving and you divide it by the amount that you invested. So this does not take into account any sort of portfolio appreciation. The way we're going to be doing this is we're going to be inputting this formula. So we're going to put an equal sign C11, and we're going to divide that by, in parentheses, $sign B11, and we're going to add cell C2. Make sure to use those $signs because we want to reference that same exact cell no matter what. And we're going to multiply that by, within our parentheses, A11 minus 1. And then we can just close all our parentheses. And as before, we have to format it as a percent. And this yield on cost makes sense for the first year because, of course, our first year dividend is going to be just our annual dividend based on our amount invested, which is 10,000. And we haven't had any time for the price to appreciate, so it should be the same. And you can drag this all the way down. So now we can come back here into value and we can do the rest of the calculation for this. So we only have one more formula to input for value and one more for annual dividend yield, and we'll be able to click and drag those all the way down the bottom and they'll fill out our entire table. So this one's also a little bit long, so bear with me. And if you guys have any problems with these formulas or have any questions for me, leave them down in the comments below and I'll try to get your answers as quick as possible. Also, maybe I can put some of these formulas down in the comments section as well, so you guys can just click and drag and copy and paste those into your portfolio, but just let me know if you need those. So we're going to put equals and we're going to open parentheses B11 and we're going to multiply that by open parentheses 1 plus, and we're going to use our dollar signs again, D4, and then we're going to close those two parentheses and we're going to add to that cell C11 plus dollar sign C dollar sign 2, and that's it. So that's our second year value, $12,960, which makes sense because we're going to be contributing about $2,000. So that's where the $12,000 comes from. And then from our price appreciation, our dividend increase, we're going to be sitting at $12,960. So we can click and drag that all the way down to the bottom. So as you can see, that already fixed our errors on the dividend yield. Now the last thing we have to do is we have to fix our annual dividend formula. Unfortunately, this one is the most complicated of them all. So again, bear with me as I go through it. And if you guys want any explanations onto how the spreadsheet actually works and how I came up with these calculations, feel free to leave the questions down below. Also, if you want to see a more detailed video in the future, I could definitely do that. I just want to make this video as short and concise as possible. So we're going to open our parentheses and then put C11. And we're going to multiply that and open our parentheses again. And we're going to add 1 plus dollar sign A, dollar sign 4. And we're going to close two sets of parentheses there. And we're going to add to that, open parentheses, dollar sign C, dollar sign 2. We're going to multiply that by E11. And we're going to multiply that by, open parentheses, 1 plus dollar sign A, dollar sign 4. And then we're going to close all our parentheses and that should be it. And as you can see, the dividend is going to be increasing each year. And when we click that and drag it down to the bottom, all our dividend yields get fixed automatically. So now what's left here is to do a little bit of formatting. So what I like to do is select everything. And I'm just going to put outside borders on the whole thing. And I'm going to go over here and put all borders. And then for this, I'm just going to select the rest of the cells. And I'm going to put these dotted borders instead because I think they look a little cleaner. And that actually will mess up my right border right here, as you can see. So I can just go back in on the right border and change the border style. And the same thing can be done for the bottom border. And that looks a lot cleaner in my opinion. It is pretty organized. Make sure you guys change this up for yourself, however way you want it to look in your portfolio. So now what we have left is we need to fill in these cells, which are very important. So we want to look at, obviously everybody wants to know how much money am I going to have after 30 years? How much dividend am I going to be getting every year after 30 years? What's my total return after 30 years? And how much dividends have I earned in total in that course, that 30 years, of course. So starting off with the portfolio value at whatever year we're looking at, I decided to use a VLOOKUP formula for this. So it's not too complicated. It's just going to be equals and then parentheses. And if you guys see that I have some extra parentheses, it's because I'm a little paranoid with my parentheses. So I always put extra rather than, worrying about if I'm missing one or not. So we're going to have, let me move my cursor out of the way, C5. Then we're going to put a comma, A11, put a colon, F50, and that's our range for our table, comma 2, that's going to be whatever column we're looking at in this case from the table, and then comma false, which gives us an exact match to what we're looking for, and then make sure you close those parentheses. So our value year 30 is going to be $376,813, and we can look at our value for year 40, $895,847. And if we want to fact check that, let's scroll down here real quick. You can see those are the same exact numbers. That's how it's pulling it from the table. Now for dividend income at year 30, I'm just going to copy and paste the formula because it's basically identical. The only thing that changes is the column we're going to be referencing is actually the third column, which is our annual dividend. So at year 40, we're going to be earning $5,287 each year of dividends, which we can verify right there. Now our total return formula is more complicated, so I'm going to do total dividend earned by year 40 first. That's going to be, you guessed it, the same exact formula again, but in this case, we're going to be putting column 4. And by year 40, we would have earned a total of $76,596.70 worth of dividend. All right, total return is a doozy. It's actually the longest formula I have in this sheet. So bear with me as I go through it. I'm going to try to make it as easy to understand as possible. But like I said, if you guys need any help with it, leave it down in the comment section. So we're going to put equal sign, open parentheses, V lookup. Open another set of parentheses, and then you're going to put cell C7, comma, A10 to B50. That's the only range we really need, so I don't need anything else from there. We're going to take the second column, and we're going to say false because we want an exact match. We're going to close that first set of parentheses, and then we're going to subtract, open parentheses, C2 times C7 minus 1. And we're going to add A2, close parentheses twice, and then divide that all by C2 multiplied by C7 minus 1, close parentheses, and then add A2 to that. And then close parentheses once more. Whew, that was a doozy. So right now it's formatted as a number, and we actually do need this as a percent. So our total return would have been about 918%. And now if we want to test these all to make sure that they're working, 10 years, they all change, 20 years, and for now I'm just going to keep it at 40 years. Now the last thing I want to do is add some graphs into here to help visualize. So we have all this empty space for that, and we're going to be utilizing it. Also real quick, if you want to make it look a little cleaner, you can just hide those grid lines, which is what I like to do, and then it doesn't look as much like an Excel sheet. It looks a little more professional. So our first graph we're going to add in is our portfolio value over time. So what we can do is we can just select both our year and our value columns, and we're going to press insert, and we're going to add in a chart, and it's going to add it in basically automatically. Now if we scroll back up to the top, we can format it however we want. So the first thing we're going to do is I like it to be in the style of a column chart. And now any other customizations you want to do are kind of up to you. For me, I'm just going to take off the border color. I don't think it's neat. I'm going to change the chart axis. I like it centered. I like it to be a little bit bigger than that, maybe size 24. We'll do black font, and we'll make it bold because why not? And for our series, what we can do is we can change it to the same color as our rest of our spreadsheet. And you guys can, of course, customize this however you want. It doesn't matter at all. Now let me scroll over to the side a little bit so I can see better what's already on the graph. So for our horizontal axis, let's slant them at a 60-degree angle. We'll make them bold, and we'll size them down until they fit a little bit better. Also, what we can and will do is we're going to stretch this out all the way to here, and that should fit out all our years. Now, last thing you can do to clean it up a little bit is format these numbers right here. So I like to do them bold. I don't really care too much about the font size, but what I want to do is round it up to the nearest whole number. Now, what I don't like is these. I think it takes away, so I'm just going to delete the titles for both the vertical and the horizontal axes. And there we go. That's our first graph right there. Now for our second graph, we can actually just copy and paste the same thing. And then we can just go in and change all the values individually. So for value versus year, we're going to put in yearly dividend income. And for our setup real quick, we actually need to change the cells we're looking at. So we're going to make it all the way down to C50. And for our series, we're going to change it from value to annual dividend. And that should be it for this graph. That was pretty quick and easy. Now, if you want to change the title here to something that makes a little more sense, you can just put portfolio value. And we'll just move these over so that they fit a little bit better in our spreadsheet. And now at this point you are done. I just set it to full screen so we can see everything a little bit better. And I wanted to walk you through an example scenario. So let's just say our starting principal is, in this case, $20,000. And we want to contribute $5,000 per year. If we assume we like a little bit higher dividends in our portfolio and we have a 2.4% total yield for our portfolio and expect dividend increase of 6.5%, with a price appreciation that's a little bit higher, maybe at 9%, we're hoping for some very lucky returns. At year 40, we can expect a total portfolio value of $3 million. We can expect a total dividend income per year of $20,000. And our total return will be sitting at right around 1,300%. Now at that point, you can see how much of our portfolio value is actually contributed by those dividends invested. During that time, you would have had $285,000 worth of dividends reinvested into your portfolio. Now, speaking of reinvesting dividends in your portfolio, one thing I should mention is this calculator does assume DRIP. So it is assumed that you're reinvesting every single dividend back into the portfolio. Otherwise, what you'd have to do is you'd have to change the formula for your value at the end of each year, and you'd have to assume that you're not adding in that annual dividend each time. I really hope you guys enjoyed this tutorial. It's the first tutorial I put on this channel, and I'm definitely down to do more if you guys are interested. And I do hope you guys have fun with this and change up the colors and the format of this future value calculator. I do know there's similar stuff available online, but I do find it convenient to be able to make my own and have it within my own spreadsheet, so I never have to go onto another website with ads and all sorts of stuff. Other than that, I just want to thank you guys for watching this video and supporting my channel. It really does mean a lot to me. If you guys enjoyed this video, please leave a like on it. It helps me out a lot. And if you haven't yet subscribed to the channel, definitely do so. I do post videos weekly, and I try to make them as informative as possible. If you guys have any videos you do want to see in the future, make sure you suggest them in the comments. And I know I've said it a bunch of times, but if you do have any questions about this future value calculator, don't be afraid to ask them. I'll definitely help out as much as I can. I'll respond to those as quickly as I can. Thank you guys again for watching, and I will see you in the next one.